I'm speaking today on the right to religious freedom and why it is imperative that this is properly upheld as the foundation of a healthy democratic society. We need to understand and remember that we live in a nation where the laws that govern us are the result of political process. The danger is always present that unless we actively protect and uphold the right to religious freedom and emphasize the place of spirituality in the political discourse, it will be marginalized and overridden by other competing ideologies. So, why are faith and spirituality such important considerations? Simply put, in a world where it is increasingly difficult to separate fact from fiction, and where truth is often seen as relative and subjective, one thing is demonstrably true. Human beings are first and foremost spiritual beings. Our spirituality is inherent and integral to our humanity. It gives us dignity and defines the purpose of our lives. It is our link with our past, and its transference to our children is our hope for the future. It fundamentally shapes who we are, and it orders how we live our lives. It is reflected in our relationships, and it manifests in the societies we build and the institutions which govern us. This is why some nations consider religious freedom to be an inalienable right endowed by the Creator rather than granted by politicians. History records the incredibly high price that has been paid for this right to be established, and we take it for granted at our peril. It was born as a consequence of over 200 years of bloody wars which engulfed the European continent as Catholic and Protestant states fought one another. This period stands as a stark and terrible lesson that whenever any faith or its adherents use their dominant political power to enforce their views, disastrous consequences follows. The consequences of the horrors of these wars of religion culminated in the enshrinement of religious toleration and freedom of religion into the constitutions and laws of many nations. These legal walls are designed to provide the safeguards which protect and uphold this hard-won freedom. The organisation that I now lead, Freedom of Religion South Africa, known as 4SA, is a legal advocacy group that exists to uphold religious freedom and its related rights, which are enshrined in the South African Constitution. 4SA is faith and ideology neutral, doctrinally neutral and politically neutral. Our mandate is to assist the faith communities of South Africa to understand the nature of these rights, to protect and promote them, and to facilitate open discourse and interaction whenever there is the potential for their erosion. Religious freedom is a basket of human rights because it goes beyond faith to include conscience, thought, belief and opinion. It is closely related to the right of dignity, human expression and association and assembly. It also is deeply entwined with political rights and parental rights because, particularly parents, unless they are able to transfer their values and their faith to their own children, it can literally be cut off in a single generation. In the same way that marriage and family are basic to the building blocks of society, freedom of religion has been rightly described as the foundation of any democracy worthy of the name. It is integral to the ability of any society to flourish and grow from generation to generation. It is for this reason that we need to be prepared to take a stand for this right whenever we see it in danger of being eroded. We particularly need to be alert to the very real danger that whenever the power of the state is used to enforce one preferred set of ideological views on everyone else, there is always a problem. Although we recognise that peace lies at the foundation of faith, as someone once said, those who will not fight to protect their rights deserve to lose them. Unless the right to religious freedom is vigorously defended and upheld, it can all too easily be lost. Secular ideology, backed by the state, is the greatest modern-day threat to religious freedom. This threat comes in the form of a multifaceted liberal ideology based on a secular worldview. In a very real sense, this ideology has become the new religion, with its priestly caste of intellectual elites, its values, mantras, language, and its rites and rituals. As traditional spiritually based views and values have waned, this secular ideology has become dominant in the Western world. What began by asking for tolerance and inclusion has morphed into a demand for submission to its views and ideals. These are relentlessly propagated by the mainstream legacy media, the entertainment industry, and major internet platforms such as Twitter, Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Amazon. It has slowly but deliberately infiltrated policy and legal frameworks to the extent that the full power of the state is often actively promoting and backing its liberal values in most of the so-called Western nations. In the process, this secular ideology is steadily undermining and eroding the fabric of spiritually based values which have woven and held our societies together for generations. It sees the world in the context of the oppressed and the oppressor, where historically dominant and traditional views continue to oppress and victimize minorities. Spirituality is therefore to be opposed because it reinforces what it views as the oppressive patriarchy, particularly through the traditional roles of family. We are increasingly in danger of therefore living in a world where freedom of religion is redefined to mean freedom of worship. You're free to hold any belief as long as you do this in the limited private expression or in the confines of your home or in a defined place of worship. The result is not freedom of religion, but freedom from religion. We can see this trend in so-called cancel culture, where people whose views do not conform to liberal secular views are shunned, deplatformed and banned. We see it in modern-day book burnings, where world-renowned authors have their works delisted on major online retail platforms such as Amazon. In the entertainment world, shows are cancelled and actors are fired or banned from their chosen profession simply for expressing personal views. Google, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook police all speech and expression on their platforms and regularly ban and block people whose ideas or comments offend their liberal editorial viewpoints. In some nations, in the so-called Western world, law codes and regulations are introduced whereby speech which simply offends is seen as violence and criminalised. On the far extreme, laws are enacted to force everyone to conform to the new speech norms. In Canada, a father who refused to recognise and refer to his transgender daughter, who is still a minor, as a male, has been jailed. In the UK, a pastor preaching on the street was arrested for disturbing the peace. A woman was arrested for antisocial behaviour simply because she was praying silently in the vicinity of an abortion clinic. In Finland, a member of parliament was tried for the crime of hate speech for tweeting quotes from the Bible. In Norway, a feminist is facing charges for hate speech for saying that a man cannot be a lesbian and men cannot be mothers. In the USA, the states of New York and California impose criminal penalties for deliberately misgendering someone by refusing to use their preferred pronoun. And in Australia, certain states have banned so-called conversion therapy, effectively making it unlawful to counsel or even to pray for someone, even at their request, who may be confused about their sexual orientation or gender identity. This law goes on, and the list goes on and on. But the freedom, the rule of law and the well-being of citizens of these nations are the casualties of an increasing intolerance towards people who express their faith. Now, while it is true that the state should never put its power behind any religion or ideology, it is evident that when religious views and beliefs are withdrawn or marginalised, it leaves a vacuum that another ideology will inevitably fill. Some people believe that religion and politics should be totally separated, but this is both incorrect and counterproductive. The political sphere can achieve much, but the challenges we face in the world today cannot and will not be solved by secular solutions that ignore the spiritual truths and foundations upon which our societies have been built. It is for good reason that a proverb in the Old Testament warns, "Do not move an ancient boundary stone set up by your ancestors." We find ourselves at a critical turning point in history where it is essential that the voice of spirituality and spiritual leaders is again heard at the highest levels of governance to ensure that its critical viewpoints and values are both considered and respected. This can only happen when we have a correct understanding of the position and role of religious freedom in the context of the rule of law. If we wish to see peace and liberty, which we all desire, and its blessing upon our peoples, this will only happen when the perspectives of the faith communities are again properly integrated into the political debate. It is time, therefore, for people of faith to speak up and to take a stand for what we believe. We owe this to our nation, we owe this to the world, but most importantly, we owe this to our children, whose future and hope we now hold in our hands.
Good day, this is Daniela Ellerbeck, the Legal Advisor to Freedom of Religion South Africa. Remember to like and share this video and then click on the subscribe button to make sure you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.